Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Neil Howard, here on Health Professional Radio. Thank you so much for joining us again. The role of practitioner in guiding a mother during pregnancy, both pre, during, and after, is essential to supporting the birth of a healthy baby. Well, joining us is Mr. Gerald Quigley. He's a member of the Perdays Pregnancy Nutrition Brands Advisory Board, and he's here to talk best-in-class pregnancy nutrition and a bit about the role of practitioner in this very, very important time. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Gerald Quigley. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Lovely to talk to you.
Well, as a member of Perdays Pregnancy Nutrition Brands Advisory Board, give us a brief look into your professional background, and then let's talk about this very crucial time where the role of practitioner seems to be crucial.
So important, Neil, because pregnancy is changing and has changed over the years. Many, many years ago, babies were really conceived when women were between, say, 25 and 30, even younger. And now that's being pushed out for all sorts of reasons. And it means that probably where we used to take pregnancy and conception for granted, it seems to be a little more complicated now, if we could say that. But really what it means is that we have to make for the informed potential young mum the best information, the best access to a practitioner, and the best guidance at what is a very, very important time, bearing in mind a lot of these young women are business people, they're career women, they've decided to perhaps have a baby a little later, perhaps 34, 35, and as we know, for both male and female conception, the longer you leave it, it means the more perhaps specialised nutrition and advice that you might require. And that really is where we've noticed some significant changes. I'm privileged to be part of the Perdays Advisory Board. I sit with some incredibly competent people. And what we are charged with doing is to look at formulations offering the most up-to-date, scientifically backed advice on ingredients and dosing. And it's been an absolute delight to be able to be challenged constantly to keep these things front of mind with the health of the mum first and foremost.
Tell us about your role at Perdays.
I'm a pharmacist, probably one of the old fellas these days. I've been a Pharmacist and Master Herbalist for a very long time. And my role there is to be part of that advisory board team where we bounce ideas around, we bounce formulations and new ingredients and around. We give opinions. They are respectfully taken. Sometimes they're not taken notice of, but we're all asked for opinions and to back it up with scientific evidence. And what it does, part of my role, is to add perhaps a little balance into the academic side. I sit with some dietitians and some nutritionists and other formulators, and it's really a very balanced group who are there to look after the interests of the mum.
You know, it would seem that the role of the practitioner in pregnancy would be obvious, but obviously it's not that obvious. What is the role of the practitioner, and can you clear up some misconceptions for us?
Certainly, Neil. Look, a practitioner really, the role of a practitioner in pregnancy, and that might be a doctor, it might be a dietitian, it might be a naturopath, but the role of the practitioner is to guide, to help reassure, to perhaps sort out a lot of the misconceptions about what's required. We know there are very important key nutrients and supplements required for fertility and pregnancy. These are changing as the environment changes, as food options change, as more fast food comes onto the market, as stress levels rise, as various challenges arise. So the practitioner actually almost becomes, for want of a better phrase, a practitioner buddy, to be there, to be accessible, to bounce and receive any issues that might arise from both partners, but certainly to engage in a fairly close relationship over the conception time.
You talked about nutritional supplements having changed over time to support the mother in her needs during pregnancy. What are some of these changes and what differentiates Perdays from other pregnancy nutrition brands?
There are some fairly basic nutritional requirements, Neil. We know that calcium and vitamin D are very important. We know that iron and vitamin C are very important, and probiotics play a role. What, as an advisory board, we've been privileged to be able to advise on are some of the tweaks of those essential nutrients based on the fact that many other formulations have not changed for many, many, many years. For example, we know that calcium is better absorbed in regular small doses rather than one large dose. So, in fact, the calcium and vitamin D formulation actually is taken across the day to meet the recommended daily intake of calcium in 3 doses separated throughout the day. Similarly, many women who are either trying to conceive or are pregnant are advised to take iron, and many of them have issues with iron. It constipates or perhaps causes diarrhea, but gastrointestinal upsets are very common. So what Perdays have done, if they've focused on iron bisglycinate, which is much more tummy-friendly, it's more bioavailable and obviously, therefore, less risk of tummy upset. I mentioned probiotics as well. We know that probiotics can help in so many ways. We're learning more and more and more about the role of probiotics in emotional health, in mood, in healthy blood sugar, maintaining a vaginal microflora, and really looking after the skin in healthy children under 2 years of age. And in pregnancy, those probiotics really supply a vast range, in fact 12 key probiotic strains, along with 1,000 international units of vitamin D. What is also fascinating in that formulation is that it's in a special capsule called a NutriSeal, which really is almost a double capsule, containing its own separate ingredients. So what that means is when it's swallowed, the enteric-coated inner capsule protects those nutrients from damage by tummy acid. Some things require tummy acid, other things don't. So what allows the protection of the ingredients to get to the parts of the gastrointestinal tract where they are absorbed much more efficiently. Now this is remarkable formulation. We've been privileged to be part of it, and really it just takes the whole formulation range from a practitioner's perspective into much more specific and helpful territory.
Would you say that you're filling basically a clinical blind spot when it comes to fertility where nutrition is concerned?
I think that is a very good way to put it, Neil, because no two people are the same. So, as I mentioned, with iron, now some people can take iron without any issue. Most people, on the other hand, in my clinical experience, struggle to cope with daily iron. And there's nothing worse than perhaps being pregnant, perhaps having a little bit of morning sickness, and then having to cope with an iron supplement as well. If we can offer an iron supplement which is more easily absorbed and less risk of a gastrointestinal upset, reassuring for everybody, makes pregnancy a little happier, keeps the prospective mum happy and contented, and lets her get on with her life as her pregnancy evolves. Simple little things like that can make a difference to either a happy pregnancy or one that really sometimes is fairly struggling.
Is there anything that you'd like to add for our listeners, and then give us a website where we can all learn more?
What you've got to do, Neil, is basically look for a practitioner with whom you can develop a relationship. You have to look at formulations which are up to date, ones that are backed by science, and more particularly, as I mentioned with the NutriSeal capsule, precision nutrition. And you can get information about this on the perdays.com.au website, where there is anything there that's required, and if necessary, you will be referred off to others for some advice as well. But the important thing is build a relationship with a practitioner and enjoy your pregnancy.
Gerald, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time with us this morning here on Health Professional Radio.
Thank you, Neil.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Gerald Quigley. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, listen in, download at SoundCloud, and be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com, Health Professional Radio.